Welcome to Free Principles Conversations with Christian McNeill, a series of conversations with Free Principles practitioners exploring a new explanation of how humans work. Insight into this understanding can help transform quality of life, relationships, and state of mind.
Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Three Principles Conversations with me, Christian McNeill. And today I am absolutely delighted to be joined by Nikon Gormley, all the way from Thailand. Hello, Nikon.
Hi there. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And I've heard so much about you from all the great people in our community, like Mavis and Win, and lots of great people.
Yeah, well, likewise, and it is. I think this is the first time that we've kind of we're
Yeah.
not joining in person, but at least joining live online. And as ever, the purpose of this conversation is through hearing more about Nikon's life and his journey, to kind of illuminate what are these three principles, and maybe you don't even call them that, Nikon, because practitioners have different names for the basis of our work. And also why it might be helpful for listeners to get a bit curious about this and learn a bit more. So, Nikon, can I ask you to tell listeners a bit more about yourself because your accent doesn't sound Thai.
Right. That's right. That's right. My name is Nikon. I'm born and raised in Thailand. I'm half American, so my father's American, my mother is Thai,
Mm.
and I grew up in a very bilingual, bicultural household. My aunt from my father's side, she also came to Thailand to help my father build his glass business. And famously, she tried to take her expat son to a Thai school, and they asked her, "Where are your son's house papers?" And of course, being an expat, they don't have house papers. So, being a Montessori school teacher, she started her own Montessori school in her living room in Pattaya, Thailand, where I grew up. And I went to
Wow.
school there in her living room. And then she was my teacher and mentor and first coach. And then during the summers, I would spend summers in America at summer camps or visiting my grandparents. And for even through school, I went through international schools and English speaking schools. So that's where the accent comes from. And I
Oh,
watched a lot of Western media when I was a kid, movies, TV.
how wonderful. How interesting. Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. What kind of glass business did your family have? This is another common interest. I was a
Sure,
glass
he
artist for a while.
he would work my father would work with interior designers and architects and just build really large glass projects for hotels and restaurants, and it would be like the interior designer would draw it and design it, and then he would ask my dad, like, can you make it? And my dad said sure, and he'd go figure out how to make it, and he would did lots of great work all around Asia and China, and he's still doing it. As of this recording, he's 75 and he's still making stuff in his workshop factory. Yeah, but like really, really big stuff. Like you walk in and you look like, wow, that's a big column.
Oh,
Yeah, but
wow.
he started really small in America, in Vermont, doing small glass things, cabinets.
How cool. And yeah, and another common interest. What's the name of his company? Because I'm going to go and look it
Uh,
up after
sure,
this.
a Gormley glass. So Gormley glass. Gormley glass.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's very cool. So you've
Yeah,
grown up mainly in Thailand, but spending
yeah, yeah,
summers spent in summer camps
yeah,
in
yeah.
America. And what was your first foray into study or work? I know that you also have a background in martial arts. I'm not sure when that started.
Yeah, I did. I've been doing Taekwondo since I was 12, so I'm 40 now as of this recording. I don't look it, but
No, of course you
and
don't.
right. I have a sixth dan black belt, if that means anything to anybody.
It means something.
And yeah, and then there are only about probably 6,000 six dans in the world. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I started as I was an athlete for most of my life until about 30, and then I retired. Then I started teaching Taekwondo, and then I started teaching Taekwondo in international schools, and that became a whole business. So about 10, 12 plus years ago, I started doing that. And now we have 30 instructors. We work with 15 international schools, and we teach 400 young kids a week. When I give talks, I tell them that I have a private youth army ready to deploy at any given time.
Excellent,
And then
excellent.
I would say that's it. But along the side, I've done all sorts of different things. I've worked in corporate, in project management, in finance, in corporate training. But the things that have stuck have been Taekwondo and coaching. Those are the two things that I just love to do.
So obviously, martial arts coaching training is one
Yeah.
thing, and we our common one of our common interests here is the three principles world, and specifically coaching there. At what point did you come across that? And I know they go together, but I'm just curious about
Right.
that specific
Sure. I
part.
was definitely I would say, I would say I was definitely a seeker.
Yeah.
Being an athlete, I had I was always wanting to improve myself, which later realized much later is I had a really deep, profound sense of not being good enough for myself and the world. And when I tell people that, they go, "Oh," but like my personal reaction to it was, challenge accepted. All right, if I'm not good enough, I'm going to build this to be something great. I'm going to make it great. I'm going to control it. And so I read every book, I took every course I could get my hands on personal development on the premise that I wasn't good enough. And I was thinking, oh, somebody out there has to have the answer and how to make this become the thing I want. And I guess that's true through the ages. I'd go through what was popular at that time, right? It was like psychology, it'd be law of attraction, it'd be all these like anything I'd get my hands on.
Hmm.
And then which I when I say it, it's interesting now because on my doorstep in Thailand we have a Buddhism philosophy, which is very, very close to the three principles. But I was like, yeah, yeah, okay. We need to make this better. We need empowerment. And then I remember I came across the book The Inside Out Revolution by McNeill, and then
Yeah.
that was my first entry. And I remember I'm not sure if I read it in his book, but there was something he said in his book about, if it was just information about how to become a good person and how to become successful, then I should be the richest, the happiest person I know, given all that I've read and all the courses I know. And I realized I wasn't. And so at that moment, I had like an inclination of maybe I was looking in the wrong direction.
Mm.
And then the more I read into it, his books, and bless Michael's great because he would introduce you to all these other teachers like Mavis Karn, our mutual friend,
Uh-huh.
um, my mentor, George Pransky. Like I just my world opened up to these wonderful elders in the world, and I just studied with them. I sought them out. I interviewed them. I read their books. I took their courses, and I had found peace that I never knew I could have, and I found um, success in ways I never knew I could find. And it's like quoting Dr. Joe Bailey, it's like my life became like a magic carpet ride, and it hasn't stopped since. I've gotten to meet amazing people around the world, such as yourself, and it's been great. And then I would say it's also the hardest thing I've learned because it probably challenged everything else I've learned up until that point from the world of empowerment of you need to do like tools and techniques. If I do this, this should happen, and this is how I manipulate this. Like it challenged all of that.
Yeah.
And in many ways, it still challenged me, and I love it because it guides me to look even deeper into that.
Could you say a bit more about that? I mean, I
Sure.
completely identify, I know what you mean, but for the benefit of any listeners, about
Sure.
maybe some specific examples, because I think that is the most co one of the most common problems that or questions I get from clients is, yeah. So what? Oh, this sounds great. So what do I do?
Right, right. That's the question I get a lot too. Like I gave a talk in the US in June,
Mhm.
and it was about having a quiet mind. And at the very end, it's like, well, how do I have a quiet mind? And then I forgot what I answered, but if I answered it again, it would simply be to have less tolerance for a busy mind. Like that's one of the things, right? So I can speak to what you said. For example, one of the earlier things that I took that I really believed was it's like it was an old school coaching question, like who do you need to be to achieve the goal, right? You might remember one of those. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, that's the best question ever. And like, okay, what are my habits? And what time do I need to wake up in the morning? What do I need to believe? But I didn't know that underneath that premise was something completely false, was if is that who you already are isn't good enough, so you need to be something else. You need to
Yeah,
be somebody else.
yeah.
So I would say the biggest twist for me in learning about the principles is it's not about what you do. It's what you stop doing.
Hmm.
So for me, I had to stop trying to become somebody else. I had to stop believing that I wasn't good enough, that this other version, future version, whatever version, higher was somehow better than who I was moment to moment. And Mavis Karn helped point that out because she was the one of the first people to point out how attached I was to my busy thinking. And she helped
Mm.
me calm down a lot. And the more I calmed down, the more I saw. And that's a good way to put it, actually, is that I wish somebody would have told me that early on because I was definitely looking for something to do. If somebody would have simply laid out, like, look, in to get everything you want, it's not going to be about doing more. It's about what you stop doing. And that is as important, if not more important, than what you do.
Yeah, very nice. One of my mentors was Keith Blevins,
Um,
and he used to use the phrase, which I think might have been coined actually by Jamie Spark, but the phrase was subtractive psychology. You know, it's more important about what's
yeah,
coming off your
yeah,
mind, and I, I really identify with that. And you said an interesting thing there. You said. You spoke about that kind of hidden. I'm paraphrasing
mm,
that hidden belief that of being not good enough,
mm,
and what I've come to see is that nearly all emotional pain seems to stem from, either false beliefs that we're entertaining about ourselves, not necessarily consciously, or an internal conflict in what we're thinking or believing, and we don't need to spend a lot of time kind of chasing down all of that because it
mm,
becomes obvious, and in those moments of quiet, sometimes things just fall away by themselves, or just through the process of insight and realization, things fall away. Or sometimes in a conversation such as this, something pops up and you think, oh yes, I too have been holding on to something like that, and it's just nonsense. It's a very it's not just the psychology of subtraction, but it's that there's an element of allowing it to be subtracted. It's not, it's not a an effortful business. It's not that there's nothing to be to
yeah,
engage in, but it's not down to re-knitting yourself.
yeah. And I feel that most people don't know or don't realize all the things they're trying to do just to be okay. And
Yeah.
not realizing that those things are built in. And as much as I would like to take credit for these great sayings and knowings, I have to credit my elders and teachers and mentors like Mavis and Michael, who I would say they never gave up on me because no matter how stubborn I was with my buts and my like, well, that can't, like, this can't be thought. They stuck with it, and they stuck with it with me. And and even now, Christian, I'm still seeing more and more. Sometimes when I'll do workshops or talks, I'll see in the moment, I'll go, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was giving a talk in the US and we were talking about not being good enough. And one of the symptoms for not being good enough is that you never arrive at where you want to be to, where you want to get to. Because as soon as you take 2 steps forward, you've moved the bar 5 steps. Like, oh, this is okay. But if you really want to be good enough, then you'll achieve this harder thing and you'll never be satisfied. And I saw that mid talk and I went, oh, wow, that looks new to me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a lovely phenomenon when that happens. Something's coming out your mouth, and you think, yes, me too, me too. Yeah, and my first big insight in this world was that insight that I'm not broken. And I had previously thought that an acknowledgement, an acceptance of my brokenness was some kind of humility, as opposed to complete misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So, it's just but for me, it was lovely when that fell away. And yet, as you say, there's always more to see. And what's been surprising to me, I don't know how you've experienced this. Um, I knew from that first experience that I'd found what I was looking for. I found the explanation of what was going on with me, and I knew I would be in it for the rest of my life. And I still, maybe I won't be, but I still feel like that. And it's been true for, the last 15 years or whatever. And I also knew that I would continue to see more, and have more insights. But I think what I didn't realize is that just how huge those insights would continue to be. It wasn't the big bit at the start and then little trickles afterwards. It was the big bit at the start and then sometimes little trickles and sometimes even um, more powerful insights. And including one which kind of changed the way that I work with people, because obviously what we're talking about now is how our thoughts and beliefs, the stuff that our values, the stuff that we engage with creates a reality which may or may not be enjoyable. But the other related part of that is just what we have available to us. The powerhouse within that I think most people are not fully aware of, not really relying on very much at all. They have this enormous invisible capacity of creativity, love, connection, resilience, resourcefulness, all of that and more and much, much more. And they're not fully aware of it. And so the pivot for me was to really focus on that first and find evidence in the life of the client that I'm dealing with, where this has already been showing up, but it's been kind of glossed over or no big deal or, all of that stuff. And the more we're looking to what's doing the creating as opposed to what's been created, the more that process of subtraction seems to occur. I don't know how that fits with
Yeah.
what you were saying.
What occurs to me is one of the things I really love about the principles is that there are no shortcuts
Mm.
to a deeper understanding. I mean, there are leaps, but there are no shortcuts. I was thinking about even um, Sydney Banks, who had a what do you call it? A massive leap in consciousness, right?
Mhm.
But if you listen to his earlier audios and you listen to his later ones, the grounding is different. He definitely had a process of grounding that went even deeper that allowed him to articulate what he knew in ways that are much more accessible.
Yeah.
And what occurs when you were talking about working with people and me too. At first, I saw the principles like, oh, that new like some I'll learn some good coaching techniques to help my clients or some cool tricks, And I'll never forget it. I was watching Dr. Pransky, not George Pransky, well him too, but
Jack Pransky.
Jack Pransky.
Hmm.
He was doing a coaching demo with a client he'd never met before, and us students were watching. And I asked him, "How did you know what to ask her? Like, what is there a process? Like, is there a strategy?" And he said, "I don't know anything." And then I kind of, when I first heard, I was like, "Yeah, okay, he's being cute." And it wasn't until like 3 years later I understood the depth of what he meant, in that he showed up completely blank page. And I was, wow, like that, because that's space for all the good stuff to come through you. And
Yeah.
but that just goes to show what we're speaking about. Because I was even when I got in the principles, I was still coming at the conversation with the intention of give me more to do, show me what to do. I want more to do. And it was maybe in my fifth year or sixth year that I was like, oh, it's about doing less. And it impacts every aspect of your life, the quietness, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because one again, a relatively recent in insight of mine has been that a true embodied knowing that in whatever conversation I'm with, whoever I'm in conversation with in this work, everything we need is there. And I used to hear people say that, and it sounded a bit like all you need is love. Yeah, very nice idea. Big deal. Um, just a sort of theory, and then it really shifted, um, and I totally got that. Yeah, but just as we're showing up here today, that everything we need is here for the conversation to flow, for what's meant to come out, and it's not even that there's one thing that's meant to come out or one line of conversation. It's just that sometimes with a new client, obviously I'll let them tell the story and why they're here. And they perhaps think that they've only told me a little bit. And for me, it's like a fire hose coming at me. But there's so much, to that we can pick up on. And it's a wonderful thing, that and really it's seeing that the more the more I have kind of prepared and have ideas of where the conversation will go, the more that will actually get in the way. Because almost
Yeah.
certainly what the client or the group wants will be at least subtly, if not significantly different from what I had pre-prepared. And it's not that I don't do any preparation or ever think about it or I'm slapdash, I hope, but it's that really when we're in these conversations, it's soul meeting soul, and the potential is truly unlimited. There's just there is no need for the kind of conscious mind to come up with a few concepts beforehand. There's that can only act as a limitation, and yeah, yeah.
Mm. And I would love to add that what you describe does take time to appreciate.
Well, it certainly did for me.
Like that,
It
yeah,
certainly did for me. I would hear people say that and think
right.
it
And
was
I'd be
kind
like,
of a,
yeah,
a catchphrase, or. Yes,
yeah, and
yes,
then
you're absolutely right. Yeah,
yeah,
what occurs is, again, it's a sort of paradox. I think maybe our human minds can't totally get around, because the potential to have a leap into complete enlightenment presumably exists. I mean, as you say, Sid had a profound epiphany, and yet he continued to see more. And it's not a matter of time. But for most of us, it sort of is, because it's one insight at a time or a series of
right,
insights at a time. So effectively,
yeah,
that there's another phrase I really love that I got from Keith Blevins, which is, if you've had one insight into this work and continue to look in this direction, there's an inevitable evolution. You will only see more. And it's so reassuring. And of course it's true, because you're not going to see the opposite. You're never going to see that human beings don't have unlimited capacity for new thought and creativity.
yeah.
You're only going to see more of it, and the speed of that is in an individual experience.
Absolutely. I can comment on the speed because me, I was my mode of operating has been how can we get there faster? It's been this
Yeah,
insecurity
me
of like,
too.
oh, it's not happening fast enough. Like my whole life has been like that. I need to
Me
get there
too.
faster. And I realized what I love about the principles, it really showed me how much that was getting in my own way. That insecure. I realized that urgency is insecurity, and I realized that and as we talk about speed, I saw that how tightly I was holding on to previous concepts. And the more I let the concepts go, I really did feel my grounding. I had like a speeding up of deepening of the grounding, but I didn't know the reason it was going slow before. Not that that's a problem, but how tightly I was holding on to old concepts. And I totally get it because your old concepts might be how your whole world of how the world works and for you to
Yeah,
let go,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
My colleague Christy Palma said it's like people come into the principles and your world implodes and melts. Like you hold on to things to realize they were never things to hold on to. And you're like, what do I do? And then you'd have to just sit with that transformation. You really, you're made to walk your talk. And that
Mm.
for me, it's been a profound journey.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Yeah. I can't believe it, because it feels like we've just started, but but we are coming actually towards the end. We still have a bit of time. We have coming towards the end of our time, but I'd love to hear more about what you're doing in the world. You've touched on working with clients, and where do you tend to be doing that? You spoke also about doing a presentation recently in the States. So tell us a bit more about what you're doing in the world today.
You know, that's a good question. And I say that because um, there was a time when I tried to really focus on doing certain things, and then I was reminded by Dr. Joe Bailey that life's a magic carpet ride, and let life take you. So I'll answer it where life seems to be taking me now is coaching. I've been working, I was spending a lot of time this past years working with companies and leaders in companies, and that's just the way things seem to go. Like I get flown around the world to do retreats for clients, and that's been fun to see the world. And so I've been doing that. I have a Taekwondo business, and we've been doing that. That's been a really cool thing to see the principles in growing a business.
Mm,
And for example, Christian, my team, we're so attuned that my team will tap me on the shoulder to let me know when I'm holding on to something too tight mentally. Like you're a little bit tight. Let's just leave it for now and we'll come back later. And we all know it's like, okay, yeah, we're definitely holding on to this too tight. So one of my great passions is business. So I guess what I'm working on is seeing the principles in action in business with people who want to build things, with people who want to grow things in business. And that's definitely something that's gotten my attention and I enjoy it. It's like my two loves. I like building things, Christian,
mm,
and I like seeing people build things without the stress and pressure and anxiety and the mental overload that habitually goes into it. For example, I was going to speak to another potential client, and I asked the person who referred to me, like, "What do you think's going on with this person?" And because this person also knows about the principles, and he says, "Oh, if this person just saw that he was married to his thinking, he would be free, because that's the only thing that's in his way of doing better is being so attached to their thinking, and that's what I'm up to."
mm. Very cool.
And
Very cool.
I think on the horizon is probably a lot more community programs, online programs, collaborations with wonderful people like yourselves. As I realize too that that's also a great joy of mine is to collaborate with wonderful people from around the world.
Yeah, I have loved doing that. That has been a real privilege of this work, and I know both of us have done programs with our co-mentor Mavis Carn, and that that has been an absolute privilege. I've come into to this work at a later stage in my life than you, but it is an extraordinary privilege to be doing something I absolutely love that feels like a total vacation, and it sounds like it's very much the
It is,
case for you too.
it
Um,
is total vacation in the work, and
mm,
I just want to do more of it. I think one of my edges right now is is knowing that the three principles is the best thing since sliced bread and not appreciating that enough.
mm,
That wow, if people just knew this, it would transform their whole lives in the most beautiful way.
yeah,
And I think I'm sitting on the notion that why am I keeping this back? Like this needs to be everywhere. And so leaning more into just talking about the principles and just teaching the principles because like you said, it feels like a vacation and it's the
yeah.
most best gig in the world.
Absolutely. And like you, I'm also very committed to that, doing anything I can to make this more widely available. And it one in a recent event I was doing with Mavis, I realized something. She said she was, doing one-on-one coaching within the call to one of the clients, and she said something. It was a sort of giveaway remark that she hadn't pre-planned or anything. That as this grabs you, you end up living a life without problems. And as she said it, it was one of those moments you kind of get a ding, and I thought. Really stuck with me that phrase, and I was, after the call, I was contemplating and contemplating. I'm thinking that's absolutely true. I now live a life without problems. And it's not that nothing ever goes wrong in my life. It's
Yeah.
not some kind of Pollyanna nonsense like that. But it somewhere along the line, I shifted from someone who was just beset with problems and overthinking everything, ruminating and creating a really horrific future, but dressing it up as, prudent planning or whatever. And I suddenly saw that. this work has enabled me to, just to move through life with much more ease. And I mean, there are literally things today that have happened. My daughter's having an absolute nightmare with her broadband, and I'm
Yeah.
corresponding with somebody on LinkedIn, of this head
Yeah.
of the company, about it. But it's not that things aren't happening, but none of that is overwhelming. I don't need to dive into when something, when some little obstacle comes along. I'm able to be here fully present with you and really enjoying this process. And I think that's what's available for everybody. But as you say, it didn't happen on day one. I certainly wouldn't have, and I might have heard someone say that and think, more wishful thinking or more flowery
Yeah.
phrases.
Yeah.
But it is a reality for me today, and I'm so grateful for that. And I want that to be a reality for everyone, ideally.
Yeah. Right. Just to be that space where people can come and sit and get insights and grow, and that would be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How cool, like one of the things I really appreciate about the Three Principles community is that everybody's just so nice. I don't know how to describe it. Everybody's just so wonderful, kind, and generous with their time and their insights. I've never experienced anything like it in any in any industry in the world. Just everybody's just so has a nice feeling about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and right back at you. I'm very grateful to you for being so kind
Same.
and generous with your time. And I know it's getting into the evening over there. But what is it? What is it? We've got a 7 hour difference. Is that
No,
right?
it's 5:40. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm.
Okay.
Um, well, Nathan, I really, really appreciate you've made yourself available. You've been very generous with your time, and as we've acknowledged, this is the first time we've actually met. So it's been absolutely wonderful. I will put your details on the show notes, but
You should.
just where's the best place if anybody listening to this wants to contact you? You just want to give us one online just now?
I I would say the place I'm most active and most sassy is probably LinkedIn, and you can just type in my name, Nikon Gormley, and I'll pop up, and you can send me a message, and I'll reply. That's the place I'm most active, and I post a lot there, and yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. And I'll not only put your
Okay,
details, but I will post this this podcast
appreciate.
on LinkedIn as well. Listen, thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely wonderful, and I really, really appreciate you.
Same, likewise. Right. Thank you for listening, everybody, and follow Christian McNeill for great conversations and insights.
Thank you, Nikon.